And so like, do you fit in with the Japanese people?
You know what? That's actually a really good question. Here's what I would tell you. I fit in with my in-laws because we've got such a multicultural family. So again, my husband is Japanese, but he's adopted, right? So my mother-in-law is Japanese, but my father-in-law was Chinese.
Wow.
And then yeah, so it gets even more complex, right? And then of course you start taking branching off from there. So I love the Japanese culture. I really do. I love so many things about it. The respect that they have, the cleanliness, right, that they have, and just the wisdom that they receive from their elders and things of that nature. So I'm a big fan of the Japanese, specifically the Japanese culture, but I would say probably all Asian culture as well. So yeah, so it's rubbed off a little bit on me, though I've not been to Japan. So my daughter's been, my husband's been, but I've personally not been. So that's really on my to-do list to knock that out in the next year or two.
Amazing. And do you
Mhm.
speak the language?
I don't. I don't. I don't speak the language at all. My husband, honestly, my husband doesn't really speak it either. He
Oh,
probably knows the words he shouldn't know. And then my
yeah.
daughter knows a few words because when she was little, her grandparents would actually talk to her, a little bit in Mandarin and or Japanese. So she knows a little bit of the language, but she's kind of outgrown it now.
Oh, okay. A lot of time when children are born mixed
Mhm.
race marriage, they don't fit in. They feel
Mhm.
as though, does your daughter fit in, or does she feel that she doesn't fit in with either race?
No, you know what? We literally, the day she was born, or even before she was born, my husband and I used to talk a lot about this particular subject because I didn't want to have a child that didn't know exactly where she fit, right? And I didn't want her to feel like an other, if you will.
Right.
And so when she was born, and for the most part, she grew up in South Florida, which, of course, is incredibly multicultural. But my husband and I were really mindful that we would let her know about both races so that she never felt like she had to ignore a race,
Uh,
right? And also that she would also be familiar with both parts of her race. So I'll tell you this funny story. The very first time I had to check her into school, she was, kindergarten, right? It was a public school. And I remember being ready, Jesse, to fill all the paperwork out. And I was going to refuse to check the box other because I just don't like that title. I think that, there's other ways to do this. And so, fortunately, the school that she went to didn't have an other box. It had multicultural, and then you add the cultures, or the races
uh,
that your child represented. And I was thrilled because I was ready to take down the whole school system if I had to check that other box. So, never had to do that. And thank the Lord, my daughter is incredibly self confident. She loves her Japanese culture. She loves her, Black African American culture. And if you look at her, depending on which parent you see her with, if you see us all three together, makes sense. If you see us all three separate, none of it makes sense, right? And so, she looks like me, has probably a lot of personality like my husband. So she's a very self-confident kid,
right
but I will
on.
tell you, we actually spent a lot of time when we were married before we had a child dealing with and diving into this subject because I didn't want her to not fit in because that stuff goes with you your whole life, right?
Yeah,
If you can't really find your way. And
yeah,
I didn't want her to have to deal with those. Life has enough struggles. I didn't want her to have to deal with that. So
absolutely.
she's, yeah, a well adjusted child. So thank you for asking though. What a great question.
Amazing.